My daughter cut me out of the wedding I was paying for and chose the man my cheating ex ran off with to give her away. So yeah, I pulled the plug on everything and let the fallout speak for itself. I'm a 52-year-old man and I never thought I'd be writing something like this. But it's been gnawing at me for weeks and I just need to say it. Truth is, I don't really know who else to talk to. This whole mess centers around my daughter Emily, who's 25 now, and the way she absolutely broke my heart, leading me to make a drastic decision I still wrestle with. Let me give you some backstory because it matters. Emily is my only child from my first marriage. Her mom left when Emily was just 6 years old, ran off to Europe with some guy named Rick. For the next 4 years, it was just me raising Emily on my own until I met my current wife, Laura, who's 42 now. Those years were tough, no question. I was managing a business while raising a little girl who was clearly hurting after being abandoned by her mom. Then, a couple of months ago, Emily told me she was getting married to this guy named Matt. Emily and I have had our share of drama, you probably wouldn't believe half of it. But when she told me she was engaged, I was genuinely happy for her. It felt like something had finally clicked. She seemed really into Matt and I thought maybe she was starting to find her footing. The thing is, Emily and Matt were flat broke. She'd only landed a decent job the year before, and before that, they were basically living off my support. Yeah, I know, I probably enabled her too much. They couldn't even afford a courthouse wedding. So I did what I thought any dad would do. I offered to cover the whole thing as a gift. Venue, catering, flowers, band, the full package. We're talking 50 grand here. I'm not trying to brag, but I run a family export business that's been in our family for 2 generations, so I can afford to be generous. I remember the day we sat down to plan everything out. Emily actually looked happy, genuinely happy for the first time in years. She showed me all these Pinterest boards and Instagram screenshots of wedding ideas she liked. For a moment, it felt like we were finally building the connection I'd always dreamed of. She picked out this wedding planner who seemed like a big deal, lots of high-end events under his belt, had a full team and everything. Emily went to all the meetings with him, choosing decor and making decisions. I just paid the deposits and let her take the lead. It was her day after all. And given my workload and my total lack of wedding expertise, it made sense. One night she texted me pictures of the venue she picked, a stunning spot by the lake, really top tier. I told her I was proud of her and couldn't wait to walk her down the aisle. She replied with just a thumbs up emoji. I should have sensed something was off, but I was too caught up in the moment to see it. For the next month and a half, everything seemed fine. Emily stayed busy with the wedding details and I kept footing the bill, which, by the way, kept creeping up. I mean, who really needs both a chocolate fountain and an ice sculpture? But I figured if she was happy, it was worth it. I even started working with my tailor to get a custom suit made. Laura helped me pick out the colors and everything. She's always supported Emily, even though Emily has treated her poorly for years. But then little things started to feel off. One day, Laura's cousin bumped into one of Emily's friends at a coffee shop. She casually mentioned how excited we all were for the wedding. The friend looked surprised and said something like, "Oh, I thought she wasn't inviting them." She said she had to cut out toxic family for her mental health. Laura's cousin asked what she meant, but the friend just mumbled something about Emily's rough childhood and quickly changed the subject. At the time, I brushed it off, figured it was a misunderstanding. But deep down, something didn't sit right. Things really began to unravel when my brother Dave called me up asking for the wedding date so he could book his flight. I figured I'd give the wedding planner a quick call to confirm Dave was on the guest list. Simple, right? Wrong. The planner started acting cagey. He said, "I'm sorry, sir, but the guest list is already finalized. I'd need to check with the bride about any updates." And I'm sitting there thinking, hold on, I'm paying for this entire thing and I need permission to add one person? So I pushed back and asked him to send me the full list so I could see who was on it. Suddenly he got flustered, saying he wasn't allowed to share that information. That's when I lost my patience a bit, I won't lie. Maybe I came on too strong, but I told him flat out, "I'm the one writing your checks. Either you send me that list or I'll be talking to your boss." Yeah, I know I might have overreacted a little, but something felt seriously wrong. Eventually, he gave in and emailed me the guest list. And guess what? My name wasn't on it. Laura's name wasn't there either. But the real gut punch? The part that made my blood run cold? Right there on the list, clear as day, father of the bride, Rick. Rick. The same man who helped my ex walk out on our daughter when she was a little girl. The same guy who said he wasn't ready to be a dad when they jetted off to Europe. The man who looked me in the eye and said, "She's your problem now," before they left. That's when it all started to make sense. This wasn't just about being left off a guest list. No, this was about being replaced like I'd never existed. And the worst part? Emily had already been laying the groundwork to justify it. I called my sister, my parents, even reached out to a few extended relatives. Every single one of them had heard some version of the same story, that I was emotionally toxic, that I never supported her, that I tried to control every part of her life. She'd been planting those seeds for months, probably feeding Matt's family the same story, casting herself as the victim of an overbearing, neglectful father so no one would question why I wasn't involved. I must have stared at that email for over an hour, hoping I'd misread it somehow. But no, there it was, clear as day. The planner even forwarded me Emily's original instructions. She had explicitly told them to exclude both me and Laura from the venue. There was even an entire section outlining security measures to enforce it. So there I was, $50,000 deep into a wedding, only to find out I wasn't even welcome. And to top it off, she chose him, the man who abandoned her, to walk her down the aisle. Rick. The man who hadn't even sent her a birthday card in 18 years. I'm not going to pretend I handled it with grace. I fell apart. Went on a full-blown bender for a week, starting my mornings with whiskey, just trying to numb the sting. Laura kept hovering, trying to get me to eat, but I couldn't even look at food. I locked myself in my home office, blinds drawn, nursing drink after drink, and just staring at that email over and over. I called Emily probably 50 times that week. Straight to voicemail every single time. I left messages. They started off measured, calm, but got more emotional, raw, and eventually unhinged as the days passed. Looking back, I'm embarrassed. But what do you even say to your own child after something like that? The betrayal was brutal, but the hardest part was watching Laura hold herself together. She's been in Emily's life for 12 years, helped raise her through high school, college, even 2 separate rehab stays. Yeah, that's a whole other story. She always defended Emily even when everyone else said she was out of line. And this was how Emily repaid her. And while I was falling apart, the wedding planner kept emailing me, sending invoices for centerpieces, catering balances, final deposits. Like clockwork. Every new email felt like another slap in the face. And Emily? She just kept going like nothing happened. Planning her perfect day with my money, throwing a party I wasn't even allowed to attend. I found out later she was off enjoying her bachelorette weekend that same week. I saw the photos on my niece's Instagram. She looked ecstatic, surrounded by friends, laughing, drinking, completely carefree. Meanwhile, I was curled up in a chair, having a complete emotional breakdown, wondering how I could have failed so badly as a father that she was capable of doing this. Yeah, I know how it sounds. A 52-year-old man crying over his adult daughter being mean to him. But trust me, nothing prepares you for this kind of gut punch. I've been burned by business partners, survived a nasty divorce, and taken more than my share of life's hits. But this was a different kind of pain. I kept replaying everything in my mind, all the moments I imagined walking her down the aisle, standing beside her on the biggest day of her life. All the times I stuck by her when others told me to let go. The screaming matches, the frantic 3 a.m. phone calls from hospitals and police stations, I was always there. I never gave up on her. Not once. And now she picks Rick. Rick. After a week of wallowing and leaving the most cringeworthy voicemails I've ever recorded, seriously, I can't even listen to them, I finally sobered up and realized I couldn't just let it go. I needed to see her. I needed to talk to her face to face. Laura tried to stop me. She told me to wait until I was in a better headspace. But I couldn't sit still another second. I grabbed my keys and drove to Emily's apartment. It's this upscale place, no surprise I helped pay the rent until she finally got a decent job last year. The whole drive over, I kept rehearsing what I'd say. Telling myself to stay calm, be the bigger person. But my hands were shaking so bad I could barely keep them on the wheel. I got there around 6 in the evening and rang the buzzer 5 times before she finally answered through the intercom. "Dad, I'm busy with wedding stuff right now," she said flatly. Wouldn't even buzz me in like I was some door-to-door salesman. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I snapped. I started buzzing random apartments until someone finally let me in. Took the elevator to her floor. As I reached her door, I could hear raised voices, her and Matt arguing. Then Matt opened the door, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. There she was, standing in the living room I helped furnish, surrounded by wedding samples and glossy magazines. She looked at me like I was something unpleasant she'd scraped off her shoe. "What do you want?" she asked. I tried to stay calm. I really did. I gently asked why she never told me about Rick walking her down the aisle. And you know what she did? She smirked. Actually smirked. Then said at least he didn't replace Mom. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This man literally abandoned her. Didn't speak to her for 2 decades. And I'm the bad guy because I remarried 4 years after her mom walked out? Then she said, all casual, well, now you know. Saves you the trouble of traveling. I'll send you some photos maybe if I get around to it. Like she was canceling lunch plans, not excluding her father from the most important day of her life. Matt stood there awkwardly like he wished the floor would swallow him. And then came the knife to the gut. I had to set boundaries, Dad. You've always been controlling. This is my wedding, and I'm not going to let you ruin it like you ruined everything else in my life. At first, I thought she was just blowing off steam. But then Matt added, Emily told me you had some anger issues when she was a kid. Matt looked me straight in the eye and said, she told me you used to yell at her constantly, said you threatened to send her away if she didn't behave. Then he kept going, accusing me of never truly supporting her, just trying to control every aspect of her life. I couldn't even respond. I just stood there stunned. Somehow, Emily had rewritten our entire history, turned me into some cold, manipulative villain, and convinced her fiancé it was the truth. I tried to ask how she could turn on me like this. How she could do this to Laura. But she cut me off mid-sentence. Oh great, here comes the sob story about poor Dad and his precious Laura. Then she added, did it ever occur to you that maybe I didn't want your replacement wife at my wedding? That's when I noticed a framed photo on the coffee table, Emily and Rick. Recent. My stomach dropped. They'd been reconnecting for months. She'd orchestrated the whole thing behind my back, building her dream wedding with the man who walked out on her life and using my money to do it. I asked her directly, what did I do that was so awful that you'd rather have him walk you down the aisle? She shrugged and said, you're being dramatic. This is exactly why I didn't tell you. You always make everything about yourself. This is my wedding. My call. Then she looked me straight in the eyes and said, you're just the checkbook. Just the checkbook. 20 years of being there through every breakdown, every rehab stay, every disaster, reduced to a dollar sign. I turned to Matt and muttered, good luck, man. You're gonna need it. And I walked out. It couldn't have been more than 15 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. I drove aimlessly, completely numb. Eventually, I had to pull over. I was hyperventilating, hands shaking so badly I couldn't grip the wheel. I called Laura and asked her to come get me. I literally couldn't drive anymore. When she pulled up and saw me, she didn't say a word. She just knew. She drove us to this little ice cream shop we used to take Emily to when she was little and having a rough day. We sat there eating sundaes in silence. She didn't try to fix anything. She just sat with me, holding space while I fought not to fall apart in public. But after that blow-up at Emily's place, I couldn't let it sit. The next day, I called her and surprisingly, she picked up. Maybe by accident. Either way, I took the chance. I asked her gently what I had done that was so unforgivable. I don't know what I was hoping for. Maybe an honest conversation. But what I got was a full-blown explosion, like 20 years of resentment had been waiting for a chance to erupt. She told me I was the worst father imaginable because I forced a stepmom on her. Never mind that I waited 4 years after her mother left before even thinking about dating again. For years of being a single parent, running a business, holding our lives together while she spiraled. And Laura? She bent over backward for Emily. When Emily got caught with pills in high school, yeah, that happened, it was Laura who found her a therapist. When her grades were slipping, Laura stayed up late helping her study. But to Emily, Laura has always just been the homewrecker who stole Dad. Then she brought up the time she lived with my sister. I thought a change of environment might help. My niece is the same age, and I figured having a cousin around might stabilize her. Instead, Emily bullied her cousin mercilessly. Made the poor girl's life hell. When I confronted Emily, she lost it because I didn't blindly take her side. Now she calls that betrayal. Says I chose other people over her. Like she's erased every time I did choose her. Like when the school almost expelled her for the pills, I pulled every string I could to protect her record. Or when her GPA tanked and no decent college would take her, I used business contacts to get her in somewhere respectable. And the money? Don't even get me started. Do you know how expensive rehab is? Because I do. Twice. The first time was right after high school. She relapsed hard. The second time was the following year. Each time, I dropped everything. Maxed out credit cards. Took out loans. I would have sold the house if I had to. She lived under our roof until just last year. Never paid a dime. I covered her rent, her car, her phone, her insurance, everything. All while getting screamed at, called names, dragged into chaos at 3 a.m. But I stuck around. Because that's what you do when you're a dad. Right? Now she tells me I owe her this wedding. That footing the bill was the bare minimum after the damage I caused by remarrying. I reminded her calmly at first that this wedding was a gift. 50 grand. Out of my own pocket. She snapped back like I'd insulted her, said that any decent father would want to pay for his daughter's dream wedding. That's when I lost it. I told her she was being selfish and entitled. Big mistake. She unloaded every grudge she'd ever held. Said I abandoned her by going on business trips when she was little, trips that kept food on the table. Said I always took Laura's side any time she acted out, even when Emily hurled racist slurs at Laura. Yeah, that happened too. Laura's Middle Eastern. And Emily said things so vile I still can't believe they came out of her mouth. And the final blow? She told me she wished her mom had taken her to Europe back then instead of leaving her behind with me. That was the moment it really hit me, 2 decades of trying to be the best father I could, and she chose to stand beside the people who had left her behind. After that phone call, I was completely shattered. Laura found me in my office, just sitting there, sobbing. I don't think she'd ever seen me like that before. And bless her, she didn't say anything. She just sat beside me and let me fall apart. But eventually, even Laura hit her limit, not with me, but with the situation. In 12 years together, I've seen her frustrated plenty of times, but this was different. This was cold, focused anger. The kind that doesn't explode, it freezes. She kept saying things like, we need to protect ourselves, and Emily has to learn she can't treat people like this and expect zero consequences. Laura's a teacher, she works with troubled kids all the time. She said Emily was showing clear signs of narcissistic entitlement. I looked down at the pile of invoices covering my desk. Venue deposit, $15,000. Catering, $8,000. Flowers, $5,000. DJ, $3,000. All of it bought for a wedding I wasn't even invited to. A celebration where my daughter would link arms with Rick, playing happy family with the man who abandoned her. Something inside me just snapped. The next morning, I called my bank. Tried to reverse any payments I could. Most of them were non-refundable, but at that point, I didn't care about the money. I just wanted to stop this thing from happening. I started with the venue, told them I was the one who paid the deposit and that I wanted it canceled. To my surprise, they understood. The manager even shared that his own kid had cut him off. Misery really does love company. Then I worked down the list: caterer, florist, DJ, photographer. I canceled everything I could except the wedding planner. I left him alone on purpose. I wanted Emily to find out too late to fix anything. Yeah, maybe it was petty. Maybe I wasn't thinking clearly. But I was hurt. I was broken. I was angry. In the middle of all this, I glanced at an old photo of Emily from her high school graduation. She was beaming. Genuinely happy. It was one of the last moments I remember seeing her like that, no drama, no resentment. Just joy. And for a second I hesitated. Thought about letting the wedding happen. But then I remembered her smug smile when she said Rick would walk her down the aisle. The awful things she said to Laura. The moment she told me I was just the checkbook. That was all the fuel I needed to keep going. I didn't touch the wedding dress. It was already paid for and she had it with her. I'm not heartless. I figured it was probably the only part of this whole thing that genuinely brought her joy at choosing it with her friends. You want to hear something twisted? While I was canceling everything, I kept getting these cheerful, automated emails from the planner. Things like, time to pick your father-daughter dance song, or final menu due this week. Each one felt like another knife to the gut. Laura never left my side. I think she was afraid I'd cave if she did. She even made some of the cancellation calls herself when I couldn't get a word out without choking up. I remember her speaking calmly to the florist, saying, no, this isn't a postponement. We're canceling entirely. And while a small part of me wanted Emily to feel what I was feeling, a bigger part just felt empty. Tired. So damn tired of always being the villain in her story, no matter how much I gave or how hard I tried. The funny part? This wedding wasn't even the most expensive thing I'd ever paid for. Her 2 stints in rehab cost more. But those felt like I was helping her. Like I was doing something meaningful. This was her using me while deliberately trying to hurt me. When it was all said and done, I just sat there in my office, staring at the wall. There wasn't anything left to say. Laura and I didn't talk much. What could we even say? The planner kept leaving voicemails, deadlines, logistics, urgent questions. I ignored them. I figured the truth would reveal itself when guests showed up to a locked venue. And yeah, I'll admit it, part of me was looking forward to the chaos. I wanted someone, anyone, to finally see how broken all of this had become. Maybe that makes me bitter. But at that point, I wasn't pretending to be okay anymore. Then the wedding day rolled around. Laura and I tried to act normal, just stayed home like it was any other Saturday, but our eyes were glued to our phones. It felt like watching a bomb tick down. Sure enough, around 10 a.m., my niece started blowing up my phone. Turns out the planner and his crew had shown up at the venue right on time, ready to start setting up. But security was already there with the cancellation order in hand and wouldn't let anyone in. The planner lost it. Started calling everyone Emily, me, the vendors. I didn't answer. Why would I? Then around 11, Emily herself showed up. Dressed to the nines. Full glam. Ready for photos. My niece said she looked stunning, which somehow made it hurt even more. When security told her the venue was canceled, she lost it. Started screaming at them, demanding to be let in. Even tried to force her way past them. They physically had to stop her at the door. And then, this is the part I'll never forget, Emily screamed. Do you know who my father is? The same father she deliberately excluded from the wedding. The irony nearly floored me. But the true kicker? Rick, Mr. I'll walk you down the aisle, never even showed up. Not a call. Not a text. Nothing. My niece said Emily tried calling him over and over. Straight to voicemail. Some people just never change, huh? Then Matt showed up and things got even more chaotic. Emily, still in her wedding dress, was trying to climb over a decorative fence to get into the venue. Her gown was getting wrecked in the mud while Matt desperately tried to stop her before she got arrested for trespassing. Meanwhile, the wedding planner was pacing on his phone, clearly panicking, probably talking to his boss while trying not to lose his mind. Around the time, guests began arriving. All 200 of them. Dressed to the nines, milling around with no idea what was going on. Cars backed up along the entire street. People were calling Emily, calling each other, total confusion. Even the catering trucks showed up. No one had told them the event was canceled. So now you've got 3 massive food vans clogging up the street, making the mess even worse. Emily was still shouting at security, the planner looked ready to collapse, and guests stood there, lost and whispering to each other. Then my niece said Emily just stopped. Mid-scream. Went dead silent. Like eerie, bone-deep quiet. And then? She started laughing. Not a chuckle, a full-blown, unhinged, manic laugh. She turned to the crowd and announced, my father did this. He ruined everything. She started blowing up my phone, call after call. When it was all said and done, I had 50 voicemails. I didn't listen right away, but when I finally did, Jesus. She threatened to kill me. Said she'd kill Laura. Threatened to burn her house down. Pure, terrifying, unfiltered rage. Then around 1 p.m., Emily actually showed up at our house. Still in the ruined dress, mascara streaking down her face, hair mess completely unhinged. But she couldn't get in, I'd already deactivated her gate code. So she just laid on the horn. 10 straight minutes of blaring noise in our quiet neighborhood. The neighbors called the police. By the time they got there, Emily was out of the car, throwing rocks at our security cameras and screaming that I had destroyed her life. The cops had to physically restrain her and take her away. Matt just stood there, looking like he wanted the earth to swallow him whole. I watched the whole thing unfold on our home security feed. Laura begged me to stop watching, but I couldn't. I just sat there, numb, staring at the screen. That was my daughter out there, covered in mud, unraveling in a wedding dress, screaming like a feral animal. Worst day of my life. Hands down. And the whole time, one thought kept repeating in my head. This isn't what I wanted. Yeah, I wanted her to face consequences, but this, watching her spiral like that, it wasn't satisfying. It was devastating. The wedding planner called me later about final payments. I told him to talk to Emily. He started rambling about how this would ruin his reputation. I hung up. I was beyond caring. I found out later that a few guests ended up going back to Emily and Matt's place for a sad little reception with grocery store cake. My niece said it was awkward and depressing. People sitting around, avoiding eye contact, whispering. The aftermath was like emotional nuclear fallout. The next morning, my parents showed up at our door. They're in their 70s and had driven 3 hours to get there. My mom was furious, accusing me of ruining Emily's big day, telling me, "You never turn your back on your child." My dad didn't yell. He just sat there, quietly disappointed. And somehow that hurt even more. I tried to explain about Rick, about how Emily blocked us from attending, all the horrible things she said and did. But my mom wasn't hearing any of it. She kept repeating, "She's just confused. You're the parent. It's your job to be the bigger person." Easy for her to say. Emily was always an angel around them. Then came the real gut punch. They told me they were going to pay for a new wedding. Said they'd cover everything, help Emily reschedule the whole thing. My own parents, offering to pay for the wedding she'd excluded me from. That stung. But somehow Emily still managed to make it worse. When they went to her apartment to tell her they'd help, she exploded. Accused them of taking my side. Said they were betraying her just like everyone else. And then, get this, she blamed them for her drug problems. Said they exposed her in high school and ruined her life. Which is pure fiction. It was a teacher who found the pills and came to me. My parents were blindsided. They had no idea. And Emily? She actually told my 75-year-old mother, the woman who spoiled her every summer, to get the hell out and never come back. That broke something in my mom. She called me in tears later that night, apologized for not believing me, kept whispering, "That's not our Emily." Yeah, Mom, I know. After that, the family fractured. My sister, the one Emily lived with during high school, took my side. She saw Emily's darker side firsthand. But my brother Dave, he thought I went too far. That sparked a full-on family divide. Thanksgiving's going to be a battlefield. Laura's family? They were never huge fans of Emily to begin with, but they stayed polite for my sake. Now, they're done pretending. Laura's mom called Emily some things in Arabic that I won't repeat. But honestly, I wasn't about to stop her. Even my friends are split. Some say I did what I had to do. Others are keeping their distance, looking at me like I might snap next. I even got quietly pushed off the country club board. I guess canceling your daughter's wedding doesn't go over well in polite circles, even if she had it coming. And the worst part? Emily's been telling everyone that I did all this because I'm racist toward Matt's family, which is insane. Matt's family is white, Midwestern, white bread, Ohio white. And Laura, my wife, is Middle Eastern. So yeah, that accusation? Completely baseless. But it's spreading. I've already lost a couple of contracts over it. My secretary quit last week. I can't really blame her. My name's been dragged all over the internet thanks to a mess of made-up stories. Reading lies about yourself online is a surreal kind of pain. You know it's fiction, but some part of you still wonders, did I somehow cause all this? That voice in the back of my head won't shut up. You're the adult. You should have handled it better. Sleep? Forget it. Most nights I just lie there, staring at the ceiling, running the whole thing over and over in my head. Did I screw it all up? Should I have just sucked it up and paid for the wedding like a good dad? But then I remember how she treated my parents. Too kind, aging people who did nothing but love her, and how she screamed at my mother until she cried. That's when the guilt starts to ease, just a little. Through it all, Laura's been steady. My anchor. The other night, she caught me flipping through old baby photos of Emily. She didn't say a word, just sat beside me. I think she's hurting too, but she's trying to stay strong. For me. Then I saw on my niece's Instagram that Emily and Matt ended up getting married about a month after the disaster. Backyard barbecue. Maybe 20 guests. Low-key. No Rick this time, not that I'm surprised. At least they tied the knot. After that, life kind of limped back to normal. Laura and I did our best to move on. I buried myself in work, started to feel almost okay. Or at least numb enough to pretend. Then out of nowhere, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Matt. My heart nearly stopped. I thought something had happened to Emily. Turns out, things were even worse than I imagined. Matt asked to meet. Said he couldn't talk on the phone. I probably should have told him no, but curiosity got the better of me. When I told Laura, she wasn't thrilled, but she understood. We met at a small bar downtown. And I wasn't ready for what he told me. He and Emily had separated 3 months ago. He said she'd made his life hell. Threw plates during arguments. Smashed his stuff. Screamed for hours. Sound familiar? He said she completely unraveled after they moved for his new job. Even though she got a decent job herself, she blamed him for isolating her. Said he was trying to control her life. She grew paranoid. Thought everyone was out to get her. But what hit me hardest? Matt apologized. He said he saw how she treated me and Laura before the wedding but didn't speak up. She'd convinced him we somehow deserved it, his exact words. He told me he should have seen the signs. That Emily had love-bombed him at the start, sweet, charming, doting. But slowly the mask slipped. Bit by bit, things got darker. By the time the wedding chaos hit, he was already walking on eggshells. He said she even lost it when he tried to invite his sister to the backyard ceremony, claimed she was trying to take over everything, just like Laura supposedly had. Matt asked me to help convince Emily to get therapy. Said she's been spiraling since the split, calling him nonstop, showing up at his job, freaking out his coworkers. He said he still cares about her, but he couldn't take the abuse anymore. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to laugh bitterly and say, welcome to my last 20 years. But he looked so wrecked, so genuinely concerned that I saw myself in him. I remembered when I still believed I could fix her. So yeah, I agreed to go see her. Laura begged me not to go alone. Said it was a bad idea. But I couldn't bring her into that mess. This was mine to face. When I got to Emily's apartment, it was a wreck like hoarder-level chaos. And the second she saw me, she snapped. Screamed. Called me every name in the book. Blamed me for everything, Matt leaving, her mother disappearing. Every hurt in her life, she pinned it all on me. I stayed calm. Told her she could hate me if she needed to, but she had to get help. Therapy. Something. Anything. But she had to get out of her own way first. She laughed in my face. Then her expression changed. It went cold. And she said she hated Laura so much she wanted her dead. She didn't say it in anger. She said it flatly. With this hollow, glassy stare that chilled me to the bone. I got out of there. Called Matt from the car. Told him I tried. But I couldn't reach her. She was too far gone. Still, I couldn't walk away completely. I reached out to Emily's old best friend from high school. Her family lived next door to us. She lives in South Africa now, but they'd stayed in touch. I asked if she'd talk to Emily. Maybe convince her to get help. And somehow it worked. Emily agreed to therapy. She even apologized to my parents last week. Said she was sorry for how she treated them. Of course, she also said she'll never forgive me or Laura. So, progress. If you squint, I don't know what comes next. I want to believe there's still a piece of the daughter I raised beneath all that anger and pain. But I've finally accepted that I'm not the one who can bring her back. That's something I had to learn the hard way. Just wanted to give an update. And to say thank you to everyone who's followed this, especially the other parents who shared their stories. You have no idea how much less alone you've made me feel. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's this. You can love someone with every piece of your heart. And still have to let them go. And yeah, it hurts like hell.